I brought $200,000 into their home. That was my part of the retirement sale, the final chunk of security I had after my husband died. My son Daniel said it was smart to combine our homes. He said it would be easier for all of us. You'll have your own room. You'll never have to worry about bills again, he promised. And I believed him. In the beginning, I tried to stay out of the way. I washed my own clothes, bought my own groceries, even paid for a handyman to fix the broken water heater in the guest bathroom, so I wouldn't be a burden. When my daughter-in-law Cherise asked if I could help a little with the light bill, I just nodded and handed her my debit card. When she asked again the next month, I didn't say a word. I didn't complain when they changed the living room setup and moved my recliner into the garage. I didn't say anything when my name quietly disappeared from the mailbox. I didn't even raise my voice when I noticed my bank account had new automatic drafts for bills I never saw. Insurance, utilities, a subscription to some wine delivery. Service. Hold on a moment before we move forward. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. And if you're loving these stories, don't forget to hit subscribe. Tomorrow's episode is going to be absolutely mind-blowing. Still, I thought, they were probably under stress. Maybe they didn't realize how much I was giving. Maybe they didn't know I was helping carry the whole house. Then one morning, I walked into the kitchen, and Cherise was on the phone with someone. She didn't hear me coming. "It's just exhausting," she said. "She's always here, always watching, always asking questions like she's the one in charge. If she hates living here so much, she can leave." I stood still, just behind the wall, holding my coffee cup. My heart didn't race. It just slowed down, like it was listening harder than usual. That evening, I waited for Daniel to come home from work. I made dinner, fried okra, baked catfish, sweet cornbread. Tyler, my grandson, sat at the table with his headphones on. Cherise didn't come down. She said she wasn't hungry. When Daniel sat down, I asked him if we could talk. He looked tired, always tired these days. Said sure and leaned back in his chair. "Cherise said something this morning." Daniel cut me off before I could finish. "Mom, please don't start. She's under pressure too. It's not easy having 3 adults in one house." "I pay the bills," I said. "I know you help," he replied. "No," I said, calmer than even I expected. "I pay the bills, all of them. That $200,000 I brought in, that's been covering everything since I got here." Daniel didn't respond right away. He scratched the back of his neck and looked at the ceiling like the answers might be hiding up there. Then he said, "If you're this unhappy here, maybe it would be better if you moved out." That sentence didn't explode. It just landed, quiet, precise, like a lock turning. "I'm not unhappy," I told him. "But I heard Cherise. She said if I hate it here, I can leave." He shrugged. "Maybe that's for the best." I nodded. "Okay." He looked up at me, surprised. "Okay?" "Okay." I stood up from the table and walked to my room. I closed the door gently. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. I didn't even sit down. I just opened my drawer and pulled out the folder I kept hidden beneath my church sweaters. Bank records. Proof of every transfer, every bill, every withdrawal. I checked the joint account I had opened when I moved in. Set up so they could manage the bills. My name was still on it, so I waited. 2 more days. I cleaned the kitchen. I smiled at Tyler. I paid the water bill early like always. Then I went to the bank and quietly removed Daniel and Cherise from the account. I told the clerk it was time to simplify things. Next, I called the electric company and asked when the next bill would hit. They said a week from Friday. I didn't say much. I just thanked them and hung up. Then I stopped paying. A week later, I heard Daniel yelling from the kitchen. "Why's the power off? What the hell is going on?" I sat in my room and sipped my tea. Cherise was in the hallway, pacing. I thought, she paid this stuff. She always pays it. Call her. Daniel knocked on my door like a cop. I opened it slowly. "Mom? Did you forget the bill?" "No," I said. "Then why is the power off?" "I stopped paying." He blinked. What? Before he turned to leave, he said, "I haven't fixed everything, but I'm still working on it," I said. "Then keep working." He nodded and walked away. As I stood beside Tyler for the group photo, I looked around at the other families. Some whole, some fractured, all trying, and I realized the most powerful decision I'd made wasn't walking out of Daniel's house. It was choosing not to return. "That's the only way to do it," he hesitated, then asked, "Can I ask something?" I didn't say yes, but I didn't shut the door either. "Do you think I ruined it permanently? With you? With Tyler?" I waited a few seconds. "Then," I answered, "it's not ruined, but it's not on pause either. You walked away from a bridge you thought I'd always rebuild. This time I let it stay broken." He nodded. "That's fair." He turned to leave, then stopped. "I'm not asking to come back into your life. I want you to know I'm trying to be better." I didn't respond. That weekend, Tyler and I attended a senior luncheon the community center hosted. I was introduced as the founder of the Leave Then project. People clapped. Not loudly, but with real warmth. After the event, one woman approached me. Her name was Lucille. She said her son had moved into her house 3 years ago, after his divorce. She supported him, raised her grandkids, paid the mortgage alone. Then one day, he told her she had to leave because his new girlfriend was moving in. "I thought I was the only one," she whispered. "You're not," I said. "You never were." She signed up for the workshop on the spot. The next morning, Tyler left early for work. He'd been working 3 days a week now, and the paycheck was enough to cover his small expenses: bus fare, school supplies, and the occasional takeout meal when I was too tired to cook. While he was gone, I sat down with the folder I'd been building since the day I walked out of Daniel's house, the one marked Evidence. Inside were bank statements, receipts, printed messages, copies of utilities. Not because I planned to use them, but because it was important for me to remember that what happened was real. That I hadn't imagined the neglect, the entitlement, or the way they twisted my support into obligation. I pulled out a separate folder. Foundation, active cases. In it, I had the names of 3 women I was already helping. One had just signed the lease to her new 1-bedroom apartment. Another was waiting on approval for a small housing grant. The third was attending every support session we held, taking notes, staying after to ask questions, slowly learning how to reassert her independence. And every single one of them had cried the first time I told them, "You don't owe them your name, or your credit, or your peace." That afternoon, Sandra called. "I just got off the phone with a donor. They want to match your $10,000 donation, but only if you agree to let us name the resource room after you." I paused. "Will it help fund the legal workshops?" "Yes." "Then fine. But don't make it about me. We'll just call it Evelyn's room. No plaque? No gold letters?" "That's fine." That evening, while preparing dinner, Tyler said he'd gotten into the summer college prep program. He showed me the acceptance email on his phone. He was beaming. "You did this," he said. "No, you did. I wouldn't have, if you hadn't shown me how to walk away from people who don't value you." I didn't respond. I just kept chopping onions. Later that night, after he'd gone to bed, I walked into the living room. I sat on the couch, turned on the lamp, and looked around my apartment. It wasn't big. It wasn't fancy. But it was mine. The lights were on because I paid them. The food in the fridge was mine. The name on every bill matched the name on the door. And there was no one here to suggest I was too loud, too quiet, too demanding, or too inconvenient. There was no one here to ask me to leave. And yet, I had never felt more at home. Weeks later, I received an invitation by mail. It was from Tyler's school, an award ceremony. He was being recognized for academic improvement and community involvement. It was signed by his guidance counselor, who added a handwritten note at the bottom. "Tyler speaks often about your impact. You're a big reason he's flourishing." When I arrived at the ceremony, I sat in the front row. Tyler walked onto the stage, accepted his certificate, and thanked me in his short speech. The crowd clapped. Some women from church cheered. Daniel was in the back of the room. I saw him slip in. He didn't try to sit beside me. He didn't make a scene. He just stood there, quiet, watching his son speak. Afterward, he approached slowly. "I'm proud of him," he said. "You should be." He paused. He asked if I was coming. I told him only if it was okay with you. I didn't answer that, and tallied every cent. There was a note attached. I didn't realize it until I saw it written out. You were paying for everything. I'm sorry, Mom. I owe you more than I can repay. I sat down, not because I was overwhelmed, but because I was stunned by the accountability. The man who once told me to leave had finally counted the cost of everything I had quietly covered. The next day, Tyler received a letter from his school about a summer college prep program, fully funded but required parental consent. When I asked if he wanted to apply, he said yes immediately. I want out of the cycle. I want to leave and not look back. We filled out the forms together. I signed them as his emergency contact. That night, I made a list of goals for the foundation. In the next year, I wanted to provide 5 emergency relocation grants, to host 3 legal aid workshops for senior women, to partner with 1 local housing office, to create a mentorship program, pairing younger volunteers like Tyler with elder women in need. I called Sandra and told her my goals. She said, "Evelyn, this is going to change lives." I told her quietly, "That's the point." Tyler started his job the next weekend. Grocery store, early shift. He came home tired but smiling. I made his favorite meal that night. Baked macaroni, collard greens, and sweet tea. Halfway through dinner, he looked up and said, "You think they'll ever change?" I didn't need to ask who he meant. I think people change when the consequences stick, not when the apology is convenient. He nodded. I don't think Dad wants to go back to how things were. Then he has to stop trying to prove it with words. That Sunday, I went to church. I wore a soft yellow dress I hadn't worn in years. People stopped me in the hallway, asked about Tyler, asked about my new apartment, asked if I was coming back to the choir. One woman pulled me aside, widow 72, recently pushed out of her daughter's home. I listened as she talked about being treated like a burden, like an old bill they couldn't wait to cancel. Her voice was tired but steady. I gave her a card with my number and the name of the foundation. "We're just starting," I told her. "But we're building something meant to last," she cried. Not loud, just a few tears, wiped away quickly. I didn't think anybody noticed women like me. "We do now," I said. When I got home, Tyler was on the porch reading. He looked up and said, "You look like you just changed somebody's life." I smiled. Maybe I did. Then I sat next to him, opened my notebook and wrote down a new entry. Day 43. When your peace starts spreading, the right people find you, and the ones who hurt you finally run out of places to hide. The final notice about the old house arrived on a Thursday. It wasn't sent to me directly this time. It was addressed to Daniel. But the envelope had been delivered to my apartment by mistake. Probably a routing error from when my name had still been attached to their account. I placed it on the counter and didn't open it. Not my problem. Not anymore. Tyler got home an hour later from his shift at the grocery store. He was smiling, carrying a bag of marked-down produce. "They gave me these for free," he said. "Manager said they were going to toss them otherwise." We washed the vegetables together. While we cooked, I told him that the community center had officially agreed to partner with my foundation. We'd hold our first workshop in 6 weeks. A lawyer would walk senior women through how to safely separate their finances from dependent relatives. No lecture, no pity, just facts and paperwork. "That's amazing, Grandma," he said, genuinely happy. "They're finally listening to you. They're listening because I stopped asking for permission." That night after dinner, I texted Daniel. Not because I felt I owed him anything, but because I knew the lien process was serious. Losing the house wouldn't just affect him. It would affect Tyler, too. A letter came here by mistake. It's from the city. You might want to handle it before things escalate. You can come pick it up tomorrow, between 5 and 6 p.m. I won't be available after that. He replied 5 minutes later. Thank you. I'll be there. The next day at 5:12 p.m., he knocked. I opened the door but didn't step aside. I handed him the envelope through the crack. He looked tired again. Eyes red, voice soft. I'm getting caught up, he said. Slowly, one bill at a time. That night, Tyler and I had dinner. I didn't tell him about the visit, but I looked across the table at a boy growing into a man who was learning, slowly, that people aren't disposable. And I realized that while I'd lost a daughter-in-law, and maybe even a relationship with my son as I knew it, I had gained something else. Space to rebuild. Not just for me, but for others like me. And that would have to be enough. For now. 2 weeks after Daniel's visit, I received a certified letter at my apartment. I wasn't expecting anything official, so I opened it right there at the door. Inside was a printed copy of the final notice from the City Utility Board. The house Daniel and Charisse had shared, my old address, was now scheduled for lien processing due to unpaid water, electric, and waste services, totaling more than $2,300. The notice was sent to me because my name had still been attached to the water account during the billing period. Even after all the steps I'd taken to separate myself from that house, my name was still being dragged through the aftermath of their poor decisions. I made a note in my logbook and called my attorney. We filed a notarized affidavit stating the exact date I'd vacated and included copies of the lease to my apartment and 2 other supporting documents. It took me all morning, but I was used to cleaning up messes I didn't cause. When I finished, I made tea and sat down at the table with my notebook, the one labeled Leave Then Project. I'd been working on an outreach plan, a way to identify women in the community facing similar financial traps. Those who co-signed loans for ungrateful relatives, gave up homes to adult children, or ended up paying bills in silence out of guilt. I had notes, ideas, contacts from the community center. And then, as I flipped the page, I found a line Tyler had scribbled weeks ago. Make them feel safe first, then help them leave. That sentence stayed with me the rest of the afternoon. Tyler came home later that day with 2 job applications. He'd walked to a grocery store and a bookstore near the apartment. They said they're hiring for weekends and after school. I looked over both forms. Are you sure about this? I want to start doing more. I nodded. Then I'll help you set up your bank account tomorrow. He smiled. Feels weird being this organized. I grinned back. Feels good though, doesn't it? That night I checked the balance in the foundation account. After my initial $10,000 donation, I had quietly added another $2,500 from a CD that had matured. No one knew yet, but I was in talks with the church to host a private workshop for older women. Something simple. 1 table, some coffee, and a discussion about how to untangle your name from people who use it like a credit card. The next day, I got a voicemail from Daniel. I didn't expect another call so soon. Mom, just wanted you to know I got a second job. Night shifts at the warehouse. I'm trying to get current on the mortgage. It's harder without her income. I'm not asking for help. I just wanted you to know I'm trying. I know that doesn't fix anything. I didn't return the call. Not out of spite. Just because I had nothing to add. He was finally in the position I had been in for most of my adult life. Working tired, managing bills, carrying the weight. Tyler, on the other hand, was blooming. The first time he got a call back for an interview, he asked me what to wear. I laid out a simple shirt and slacks I'd ironed. He stood in front of the mirror and practiced his answers. Watching him reminded me of Daniel at that age, back before everything got complicated, before responsibility became something to dodge instead of own. That weekend, I brought Tyler with me to the community center. I introduced him to Sandra, who lit up when I explained he wanted to help as a youth volunteer. He helped carry folding chairs, set up tables, and greeted a few of the seniors who were arriving for the bingo event. On the way home, he said, "They look at you like you're important." I chuckled. "I'm just consistent. That's rarer than you think." Back at home, I found an envelope in the mailbox. No return address, just my name in Daniel's handwriting. I opened it in the kitchen. Inside was a printed spreadsheet. It listed every utility payment I had made over the last 18 months in his house. Totals, dates, confirmation numbers. He had gone through his old bank records, matched them with mine. Then he hesitated and added, "Mom might be moving back to Ohio, to her sister's place." I didn't say anything. "She says she's tired of holding everything together." I just sipped my water. He looked at me. "She says Dad broke everything when he let you leave." That part made me pause, not because it surprised me, but because I knew she'd finally said something true. The next morning, I got a certified letter from the gas company. Another unpaid balance, $398.07. Still in my name. I called and confirmed the service address. Then I requested an official document to prove I was no longer living there. They said I'd need to come in person to remove my name from the account. I scheduled an appointment. As I walked into the utility office 2 days later, I saw another woman about my age sitting in the lobby. Her face was tight, hands folded in her lap, the kind of posture that told me she'd been through more than one situation like mine. She was arguing softly with a representative about a grandson who had used her information to open multiple accounts. We caught eyes for a second. She gave me a small nod. I returned it. That's all we needed to understand each other. By the time I left the office, the account had been cleared from my record. The balance would follow Daniel and Cherise. I had done what I needed to. That weekend, Tyler didn't go home. "I think they're done," he said while folding laundry in my living room. I heard them arguing about the car note and the rent. My name came up too. What did they say? That I chose sides, that I was being turned against them. "Did you say anything?" He shook his head. "Didn't have to." Later, that evening, I made my first deposit into the Leave Then project account, $10,000. I wrote it in a notebook I kept on the kitchen shelf. Under the entry, I added, "Day 1. No one will tell our stories, so we'll protect each other instead." That Sunday, Daniel called again. This time, he left a message. "Mom, I know you don't want to hear this, but I need to say it. Cherise left. She packed up Friday night, took the second car, went to Ohio. She left a note saying she's done. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Tyler won't come home. I don't blame him. I don't know how to fix this." I deleted the voicemail. A few hours later, he sent a text. "Can I see you? Not about money. I want to talk." I didn't reply right away. I thought about it all night. The next morning, I sent back one line. "Tuesday, 4 p.m., my apartment. Just you." When Tuesday came, he arrived exactly on time. I opened the door and stepped aside. He came in, looked around like it was his first time seeing me as someone independent, someone outside his orbit. He sat on the edge of the couch and started with, "The obvious. She's gone. For good, I think." I nodded. "I'm not going to ask for help. I know that door's closed." I didn't say anything. He added, "I just wanted to apologize. I waited. I was selfish. I treated you like a resource instead of a person, and I didn't stop her when I should have. I didn't defend you. I let her erase you from your own life, and when you pushed back, I acted like you were the problem." I crossed my arms. "I never thanked you for everything you did, and I never respected the fact that you still had a life of your own, even after everything you gave to us. You're still a whole person." I said, "You remembered all this after she left?" He shook his head. "I remembered it when the power was off and Tyler was eating cold food at a friend's house. We sat in silence. He looked around. "This place is quiet." "It is. And you're not alone here." "No," he nodded. "I don't expect forgiveness." "That's good," I said, "because I haven't offered it." "I understand. You know, Daniel, it's not just about the money or the bills or the furniture. It's about how easy it was for you to let me become invisible, and how hard it is now for you to live with the space I used to fill." He looked down at his hands. "I miss Tyler. He's still your son, but he's watching now. I know. I hope you find a way to show him the man you're trying to be, but I'm not going to manage that for you." He nodded. "I get it." I stood up. That was his cue. He got to the door, hesitated, then said, "You're doing something important with that project, aren't you?" I nodded once. "I hope you know I'm proud of you." I didn't respond. He left. But later that night I opened my laptop and searched for nonprofit starter kits. I read articles. I made notes. I even called the director at the community center and asked for a meeting. The next week I opened a new bank account under the name Silver Roots Foundation. I didn't tell Tyler yet. I didn't tell anyone, but something was starting to take shape. That same week, Daniel showed up again. Unannounced, alone. He knocked and I opened the door a few inches. "Mom, please, I'm listening." He looked like he hadn't slept well. Hair uncombed, wrinkled, shirt, dark circles under his eyes. "We're falling behind. On everything. Cherise is blaming me. I'm blaming her. Tyler doesn't even look at me." I didn't respond. He sighed. "Can you at least help us get some of the services restored, just until we get caught up?" "No. Mom, you told me to leave. I didn't mean it like that." "You meant it enough to say it in front of her. Loud enough that I heard it from another room. Loud enough that Tyler heard it too." He rubbed his hands together. "I'm not asking for much." "You're asking for peace while I pay for your comfort." He shook his head. "It's not like that." I stepped outside and shut the door behind me. I didn't want him in my home. "I'm going to be clear, Daniel. I didn't raise you to be careless. I didn't work my whole life so you could pretend not to understand responsibility. You and Cherise had a full-time caretaker, a financial contributor, and a second parent in your house. You lost all of that, on purpose." He didn't look at me. I continued. "Now you want me to fix it, but I'm not here to fix anything anymore." He nodded slowly. "Is there anything I can do?" "You can stop sending me bills that aren't mine. You can stop pretending Tyler chose sides, and you can get your own name on your utilities." He nodded. "I understand." Before he walked off, he said, "She's talking about leaving." I didn't respond. He added, "If she does, I don't know what I'll do." "That's between you and the bills." He walked away. I closed the door. Later that night, Tyler came home. I told him I was thinking about starting something, a program for older women who get pushed aside. He said, "You should call it the Leave Then Project." I laughed. For the first time in weeks, it didn't feel bitter. I sat down and wrote it out on a piece of paper. Leave Then Project, founded by Evelyn Barnes. It had a nice ring to it. The morning after Daniel said Cherise was talking about leaving, I waited to feel something. Not guilt, not sympathy, just something. But the truth is, I felt nothing. I had done enough, given enough, and now the consequences were theirs to hold. That same afternoon I had my meeting at the community center with Sandra. I brought my notebook, a folder of drafts, for what Tyler jokingly called the Leave Then Project, and the outline I'd written the night before. Sandra listened while I spoke, flipping through my notes without interrupting. At the end, she leaned back in her chair and said, "You've clearly thought this through. I have. What's your vision?" "I want to create a small emergency grant program for women 60 and up who were pushed out by their families especially if they're financially tied to a house that no longer feels safe. A place to land when they've been told to leave. Sandra nodded. And you'd fund this? I already started a new account. I can commit the first 10,000. Quietly, she blinked. Evelyn, that's not nothing. I know. I just don't want my name on a wall. I want a woman to have somewhere to sleep when her son changes the locks. Sandra said she'd talk to the board, but privately she told me it sounded like exactly the kind of project their senior outreach had been lacking. By the time I got home that evening, Tyler was already at the apartment. He'd let himself in with his key. I had given it to him last week, without much ceremony. Just left it on the counter with a note. If you ever need somewhere that won't shut a door in your face, this is it. That night, overbaked potatoes and roasted carrots. He told me he wanted to get a part-time job. I want to contribute, he said. I've been eating your food, using your Wi-Fi. I cut him off right there. You've been surviving. That's different. I know, he said, but I want to help. We agreed he'd look for something nearby, nothing too intense. School came first. It said the final balance for the electric service at Daniel's address was $743.06. It also showed that the automatic payments had stopped the day I closed the joint account. There was a note at the bottom. Due to non-payment, service has been disconnected. To restore service, full payment and reconnection fees are required. I folded the letter and placed it in a new file folder I'd started, one labeled Evidence. I wasn't collecting proof to go after them. I just wanted to remember. Not the hurt, but the facts. Because people like Daniel and Cherise had a way of rewriting the story when they realized they'd gone too far. Tyler had stayed the last 2 weekends with me. He wasn't saying much about what was going on at home, but he didn't have to. His body language said enough. The second weekend, he came in with only his school backpack and a duffel bag. No one had messaged me to ask where he was. No one had even called. It was like he just stopped being a priority in their lives the moment I stopped being one. That Friday evening, after he'd finished his homework at the kitchen table, he asked, "Can I get my mail sent here?" I looked up. "What kind of mail are you getting?" "School stuff. College stuff." I blinked. "College?" He nodded. "I've been thinking about it." I stood up and poured us both some water. "Of course, baby. You can use this address for whatever you need." That night, while he slept on the pull-out sofa in the living room, I checked my email. I had a message from my credit monitoring service. Someone had attempted to open a retail account using my name and social security number. The application had been denied because the address and phone number didn't match the ones on file. I knew who had done it. It wasn't hard to put together. When I left Daniel's house, I left behind a filing cabinet with outdated paperwork. Not because I forgot, but because I never imagined they'd try to use it. And yet, here I was. I didn't panic. I called the fraud department and flagged the incident. Then I added another entry to my evidence folder. A few days later, Cherise called me directly. First time since the day I walked out. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. "Evelyn, I'm not trying to start anything, but Tyler needs to come home. This is not healthy. Him staying with you this much. He needs consistency. And also, I think we need to figure out some bills that are still in your name. There's some confusion with the water account and internet." I listened to it twice. Then I forwarded it to my lawyer. Yes, I had one. I had quietly hired a local attorney who helped me transfer all property titles and accounts out of my name and issue notices where needed. It cost money, but peace isn't free. The next weekend, Tyler came in with a paper from school. A scholarship program requiring parental information. "I can't ask them for this," he said, eyes low. "Can you fill it out?" I took the form and looked it over. "Baby, I can fill out my part, but if they're asking for parent info..." "I know." He interrupted. "Can I list you as my guardian?" I paused. "Do they know you're staying here full-time?" He shook his head. "They don't care. As long as I'm not getting in trouble, they're fine." That silence that followed said everything. I signed the form and made a mental note to schedule a meeting with the school. If Daniel and Charisse wanted to claim him when it benefited them, they were going to have to show up. The next day, Tyler brought in the mail. There was a pink envelope addressed to me, handwritten. Inside, a letter from Charisse. Not typed, not polite. You've poisoned Tyler against us. He barely speaks to his father. You created this division. We opened our home to you. You repaid us with manipulation. Please return the documents you took from the office cabinet. We know you have them. Also, we need to resolve these account closures. The Wi-Fi and gas are still tied to your credit. Please do the right thing. I read the letter 3 times. Then I placed it in the folder. Evidence. That evening, I sat with Tyler on the couch. We were watching a documentary on PBS about a woman who had built a community shelter for displaced seniors. Halfway through, Tyler turned to me and said, "You know, you could do something like that." I smiled. "Do what?" "Create a program. Help people. You're good at that." I didn't respond. I signed up to volunteer twice a month, helping other older women navigate retirement benefits and housing issues. The director, a woman named Sandra, hugged me after our chat. She said, "We need more people like you here." I smiled but didn't respond. What I wanted to say was, there are more of us. We're just too tired to keep fighting the same battles in our own homes. That night, Daniel called again. I let it ring. Charisse texted twice more. "We're struggling. Please come back, at least to help with Tyler's school costs." But I had already helped. I had helped when they asked me to move in. I had helped when they bought that second car and put the insurance in my name. I had helped when they needed someone to wait for the plumber, the packages, the cable guy. I had helped when I gave up my room, then gave up my seat at the table, then gave up asking questions. And when they told me to leave, I did. Quietly, legally, completely. 3 weeks after I left, the joint account we used was officially closed. I had transferred my funds back into a private account and left them with a 0 balance. They tried to make purchases that bounced. I know because Daniel texted me. The bank said the card was declined. What's going on? I didn't reply. The following day, a letter came to my new address. It was from Daniel. 2 pages, typed, signed at the bottom in his shaky handwriting. He said they were sorry for how things went. He said they had gotten overwhelmed. That, Sherry says, was under stress, that I had misunderstood the tone in her voice that morning. He asked if I could meet him for coffee, just to talk. I folded the letter and put it in the drawer with my receipts. I didn't need coffee. I had truth. A week later, Tyler showed up again, backpack slung over one shoulder. "I'm tired," he said. I didn't ask what he meant. I just opened the door wider. He sat down and said, "They're blaming you for everything. The rent's late. They're fighting about groceries. My mom said you used her." I almost laughed, but I didn't. I just shook my head. She said it's selfish to stop helping your own family. I looked at him. "Do you think I was selfish?" "No." "Then that's all I need to know." He looked around my small apartment. "You seem better." I am, and I was. I had joined a church group that met on Thursdays. I was walking again, taking short strolls in the mornings. I had even gone to the library to renew my card. The librarian smiled and said, "We missed you." I hadn't realized how long it had been since anyone had said that. That one day, about a month after I left, I got a knock on my door. I opened it to see Daniel standing there. No warning, just him. "Mom," he said, "please, we need to talk." I stepped outside but didn't invite him in. He looked older than I remembered. Or maybe just tired. His eyes were red and his shirt was wrinkled. "You can't just disappear like this," he said. "I didn't disappear," I replied. "You told me to leave, so I left." "We didn't mean it like that. You didn't correct Charisse when she said it. You told me yourself. Maybe it's for the best." He looked down at his feet. I was frustrated, and I was exhausted. He nodded slowly. "We're in a bad place." "I know. We thought you'd keep helping." "I know, that too. He shifted his weight, hands in his pockets. Tyler keeps coming over here. I know. He looked up, eyes wet. Can I come in? No. He flinched. This is my space, I said. My peace. I gave you every dollar, every hour, every ounce of support I had left. I'm not giving more. He didn't argue. He just nodded again and backed down the steps. Before he turned the corner, he said, I miss you. I'm not lost, I said. You just stopped looking. That night, I made dinner and set the table for 2. Tyler came at 6, just like he said he would. We ate in silence for a while. Then he looked up and said, I want to stay here more. It feels better. You're always welcome. He smiled, really smiled, the kind I hadn't seen in a long time. As I cleaned up after dinner, I thought about the quiet, about how it used to feel like loneliness. Now it just felt like a house that belonged to me. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a guest in my own life. It was early April when I received the official letter from the utility company, addressed to my name, even though I hadn't lived in that house in over a month. Inside, you said if I don't like it here, I can leave. So I'm making arrangements. You can't just stop paying the bills. They're not my bills anymore. The silence between us wasn't heavy. It was hollow, like there was nothing left inside it to carry. You're serious? He asked. I didn't answer. I just closed the door. The next day, the water was shut off. 2 days later, the internet and cable. A week after that, Charisse's car was repossessed from the driveway. The insurance had been on auto pay, under my name. They were shocked, outraged. Daniel tried to talk to me again. He said I was ruining everything. I told him I was just following his suggestion. That Sunday, I left before sunrise. Quiet. No bags, no noise. My neighbor drove me to a small apartment complex 20 minutes away. I had signed the lease in cash. The apartment was small but clean. It had sunlight in the morning and quiet at night. The woman at the front desk called me Miss Evelyn. That was enough for now. Later that week, I got a text from Tyler. Grandma, can I come see you? I replied, yes, baby. Anytime. He came that Friday. He hugged me long, didn't say much, just looked around the apartment and nodded. It's nice here. I nodded. It is. He said, they're losing it back there. I know. They're saying you were sneaky. I was quiet, not sneaky. He nodded again. You still paying their bills? He asked. No. He smiled just a little. We ate dinner together that night, just the 2 of us. I made rice and beans, baked chicken, and green beans with garlic. He asked if he could stay the weekend. I said yes. And that was the start. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. But I wasn't paying anymore. Not for the lights. Not for the wine. Not for their comfort while they spit on mine. I stopped being the one who kept the house running. And for the first time, they had to feel what that silence costs. The Monday, after Tyler stayed the weekend, I got a call from Daniel. I didn't answer. He didn't leave a message. That was fine. I didn't need one. I had already heard everything he had to say when he told me to leave. By Wednesday, Charisse texted, we need to talk. Please. I ignored it. Then she sent another. Tyler is asking questions. Can we meet and talk this through like family? Family. Now that the lights were off and the bills were overdue. I was family again. The truth was, I had been planning my exit long before Daniel said the words. The moment I realized my retirement money had become their lifestyle cushion, I started watching. I noticed how many packages came for Charisse every week. Clothing boxes, skincare, all kinds of deliveries. I noticed Daniel had upgraded his phone and bought a new watch. I didn't say anything, but I watched. The month before I moved out, I sat down at the kitchen counter and quietly made a spreadsheet. I calculated every dollar I had put into that household. Utilities, groceries, unexpected repairs, subscription services, birthday gifts, even Tyler's school laptop. It totaled over $32,000 in less than a year. And none of it had come back. They hadn't just asked me to help. They had expected it, without discussion, without gratitude. So I made a decision. I would not demand repayment. I would not threaten. I would simply stop. That week in my new apartment, I began to feel like myself again. I slept through the night. No shouting from down the hall. No footsteps pacing outside my bedroom. No forced conversations at dinner. I got up early, went to the corner store, bought fresh coffee and bread, and read the newspaper by the window. It had been years since I'd done that. Tyler came by again on Friday. He sat on the couch, kicked off his shoes, and said, "They're saying you left without warning." I nodded. "I did." "They said you didn't tell anyone." "I didn't have to." He didn't argue. He just picked at a thread on his jeans. "It's real bad over there." "I know." "They had a fight about the electric bill. Dad said you were supposed to keep paying. Mom said it was your house too, so it was your responsibility." "Was?" I corrected him. He looked at me. "You're really not going back?" "No, baby, I'm not." "Good." I didn't ask him to explain that. I didn't need to. That weekend, I took him to the community center near my apartment. They were hosting a free legal clinic for seniors. I didn't need legal help that day, but I went to meet people.